warning sign for blood pressure. That's why we call it in medicine a silent killer.
Welcome, Dr. Darshan Shah, the most famous guy in west of the country in United States, in Los Angeles. I knew Dr. Darshan Shah back from YPO days, and I am so delighted to welcome him to our podcast. Dr. Shah, please tell our audience a little bit about your background. I know you're a board-certified surgeon, but you are also literally taking the flag of longevity in the country alongside a lot of other longevity stalwarts, but your name is out there. As an Indian, I'm very proud to have you here because you are one of its kind who has actually taken longevity into a different level altogether. Let's get started.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Puneet. It's such an honor to be here on your podcast. You've done so many amazing things, educating the public through all the different mediums that you use. And it's just an honor to be here. And a little bit about me, I became a physician 30 years ago. I spent the first 20 years of my career in surgery. I was just like many physicians, always at work, working long hours, 7 days a week, many weeks, and, just really, really working hard. And unfortunately, most physicians live an anti-longevity lifestyle, right? And I was definitely victim to that. Not only was I working hard, I was very stressed out. I wasn't sleeping. I was eating garbage for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and in between. And I was not moving my body at all. I was just sitting in front of a computer. When you're in your 20s, all that might be okay. But when you're in your 30s and your 40s, the damage keeps piling up. And I became very, very sick. I became obese, diabetic, had autoimmune disease, hypertensive, heart disease, everything. And, especially for our culture, that we're very susceptible to diabetes and heart disease. And so I was going down the wrong path of maybe having an anti-longevity lifestyle leading to an early death, And so being a physician, I thought to myself that there has to be a better way than this. For years, I was part of this Western medical system where we were using surgery and pills to cover up the symptoms of disease. And I was myself on 12 different prescription medications covering the symptoms, but not getting any better. And so I thought there had to be a better way. 10 years ago, I decided to educate myself on the science of health. Everything I was not taught in medical school, how to be healthy, how to use diet as a medicine, as a cure, how to start moving my body, how to exercise, how to sleep better, how to recover from stress. And I started getting better. And within 8 months, I was able to turn my entire health around. And so, that took me a couple of years to really learn and to turn my health around. And then I decided I wanted to start a new type of practice for myself. And the last 8 years, I started Next Health, which is the clinical practice of health optimization, functional and longevity medicine is what we call it. And we have many clinics all over the world practicing this new type of medicine. It's medicine 4.0, I like to refer to it. And we are now helping many others get healthy and maybe move away from prescription medications, turn around chronic disease, and feel incredible all at the same time. And that's my new kind of mission in life, is to keep expanding that new way of practicing medicine.
Love it, love it. So let's start from the very beginning for a quick second. Can I ask you, how old are you, Doc?
Biological age or chronological age?
Biological age.
Biological age, I just had my biological age test done, and I'm 30 years old biologically.
Love that.
I was so happy about that. When I did my first biological age test 10 years ago, I was 15 years older than my actual chronological age.
So can we ask you now the chronological age?
Yeah, 52 now, 52.
52, wow. Yeah. So you've actually gone down 22 years from the rest of the population who's probably even more than 52 at 52. That is amazing. So now tell us, you had diabetes, you had hypertension, you had other issues that you talked about. Where do those stand?
Most all of it is cured. I went from 12 prescription medications to just being on 2 right now. I'm on 1 high blood pressure medication just to kind of keep it even under really, really tight control. And I also take metformin in order to keep my blood glucose under control. These are both things that we're genetically susceptible to in my family. in our culture. And so I just want to make sure I maintain very, very tight control. But I got off all my diabetes medications, all my heart medications, everything, because I really wanted to, reverse all the chronic disease. Yeah.
So tell us again, stepwise, what did you do to reach this in the 8 months period?
Yeah. So the steps that I use basically are the same steps that we now use with all of our patients. Now, it took me about 3 years to learn and to adjust and see what works and what doesn't work. And now we can do it in less than a year for our patients because we just have a really tight model. Step one is what I call lifestyle medicine. If you don't get your lifestyle in order, nothing else is going to work. And if it does work, it's going to work at a fraction of the power that it could have worked. Lifestyle medicine is getting your nutrition, your movement, your sleep and recovery, and your stress management under control. So the way I talk about it with my patients is that is the foundation. Let's figure this out for what's going to work for you. Because, different diets work for different people. Different stress management techniques work for different people. Not everyone should meditate. Not everyone should be on a vegetarian diet. I totally recognize that. Let's find what works for you, right? Step two then is functional medicine. Functional medicine is the science of understanding what are the root causes of disease. And we know that there are only 8 root causes of disease that lead to all the other diseases out there. And so once you start looking at your gut health, your hormone health, your detoxification pathways, your emotional health, all of these root causes can then lead to better disease management, but also reversal of chronic disease. So that's our second step that we do for people. Third step is what I call preventative medicine. Preventative medicine is where we now that we have your biology under good control, we can start looking at how to prevent heart attacks, Alzheimer's, cancer, and metabolic disease. These are the 4 main causes. Every year, the CDC looks at the top 10 causes of death in America. These causes lead to most of the deaths in America other than accidents, okay? Especially as we get older. So we want to prevent that. We want to make sure that we use technology and tools 30 years before we're using them now to prevent you from having any of these problems so that heart attacks, Alzheimer's, cancer becomes a non-issue in your life. And then lastly, we look at longevity medicine. Longevity medicine is the new science of medicine where we use things like peptides, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, therapeutic plasma exchange, stem cells, regenerative medicine to really accelerate your wellness journey. And so we do these in this order. We do these for all of our patients, and we have very good success in making our patients feel amazing and reverse chronic disease.
Amazing. Now, when I decided to go to one of your clinics last week and actually get an IV done, go through the chamber, the cold chamber that you have there. And I also took a little quick tour of the place. I looked at your menu. You literally had all the things that you just talked about. How does one know that, okay, he goes to your clinic? How does he know that, okay, this is my regimen that I have to follow, and this is what I need to do? So do they need to actually take a consult for that?
So the starting point always, Puneet, is getting your biomarker testing done. So we really believe in getting N of 1 data. That means I want to know everything going on with you under the hood. The only way we know that is by doing blood tests and some other urine testing and a few other biometric analysis. So we get a lot of data together, and then you sit down with our medical practitioner, doctor or nurse practitioner on site that will then review your results and say, for you, this is what you need to do. Maybe you need to fix your gut health. Maybe we need to change your diet. Maybe you need to get in the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. There's lots of different things that we can really curate for you out of all of the options that we have on site. And that's the other thing about Next Health is that we brought everything you could possibly need and do in the health world under one roof. So every one of our locations has all of the technology there for us to help you accelerate your health.
Beautiful. So tell me one thing, when you built Next Health into this cutting edge longevity clinic, what was the single aha moment that convinced you to integrate functional medicine into this high-tech biohacking longevity thing?
It's a great question. So I will tell you, all of the high tech that we have, none of it really works as well without getting functional medicine first, okay? You have to get the basics covered before you do any of the high tech. Now, look, the high tech can help you if you're doing them both concurrently. But the biggest problem right now is everyone starts with biohacking and they expect it to work. They expect it to be a quick fix. They think that they take a supplement or they go into like a sauna that they're going to get better all of a sudden. And that's not going to work. You have to get your biology under control first. And so that's the one aha moment, I think, that made a big difference in my personal health journey and also the way we take our patients through this process.
Did you end up losing weight in doing this
Yeah.
whole thing? Because I remember when I met you first time to when I met you lately, I saw a big difference.
Oh, yeah. You're being kind. I used to be a big guy. I was 235 pounds, and that 235 pounds was mostly fat. And so now I'm, mostly muscle, and I weigh around 182, and it's a much better body composition.
And you're a tall guy. I think you're over 6, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm 6'2". Yep.
So tell me one other thing that many people think longevity clinics are only for the ultra wealthy. Means a lot of my clientele is not that wealthy, or they may not live next to Century City Mall or Beverly Hills. How would you recommend someone on a middle class budget? How can they apply biohacking strategies?
We have 12 clinics today. We have 5 in LA. Then we also have Newport Beach in California. And we're opening Santa Barbara and San Jose pretty soon as well. And then we also have Nashville, Chicago, New York. We're opening Miami very soon. We're opening all over the United States. So in a year from the taping of this podcast, we will have 30 clinics. And 2 years from now, we'll probably have about 50 clinics. And so, we'll be everywhere. Main goal is to bring longevity medicine to the masses. And so you bring up the question of affordability. And I agree with you. Like right now, a lot of this stuff can seem daunting and expensive, but so much of this you can do for free. Number one, we talked a little bit about biomarkers, about blood tests. There's about 10 to 12 very important ones that everyone needs to know. They need to know where their health is now, not when it's too late, right? And so you can get those biomarkers from your doctor. Your doctor should get them for you. You just have to request them.
Can you tell us like vitamin D, vitamin B12? Can you tell us those top 10 that come on your head right now?
Yeah. There's hemoglobin A1C, which is a measurement of how well your body's controlling glucose. There's ApoB that tells us how risky it is for you to have a heart attack. What is your cardiovascular risk? There's HSCRP, which is a measure of inflammation. And on my website, drshah.com/biomarkers, if your audience goes there, they can download a guide to these biomarkers. You can go to your doctor. You can say, I want these biomarkers. And they say no, find a new doctor.
Absolutely.
They should be covered by your insurance, and you should be able to get these biomarkers. And then you have some direction about which way to go. Now, once you have a little bit of data, you can go the right direction. Then there's many things you can do for free as well. You don't have to go to an expensive doctor or biohacking center to do these things. And so it's very accessible now. The knowledge is free, and knowledge is the key here, So
what do they do? Let's say if they have, what are the top 5 things that you see people are missing out on? Give me those 5.
Yeah. So a lot of people come in complaining about their weight, right? That's the number one complaint in America is I'm overweight. What can I do? I want to look better. I want to feel better. And I would say a lot of people's weight issues are really stemming from poor metabolic health. Metabolic health means how does your body handle sugar, right? And so what people need to do is understand how to modify their diet so they can still take in some sugar, but also reduce the effect of it, okay? And you can do that in a few different ways. One is, for example, start every meal with a vegetable. Don't start it with carbohydrates. If you put the carbohydrates after the fiber and the protein, your body will absorb a lot less sugar. Simple technique, just change the order of how you eat, and it can make a massive difference. Number 2, avoid ultra-processed food. Ultra-processed food is literally what is killing Americans. It is causing us to be obese. It is causing us to be inflamed. It is causing metabolic disease, heart disease, and Alzheimer's disease. Ultra-processed food is all the garbage you find in the middle of the supermarket that is wrapped in plastic and has a very long list of ingredients and you don't even know what it is. So, those are a couple of examples of things that people can look at to make a major difference in their life. Third thing I will tell you is, so many people have gym memberships and they sit around all day at work. They go to the gym maybe once a week, twice a week. I don't care how much you go to the gym. You can cancel your gym membership. If instead you walk 8,000 steps a day, that is so much more powerful than using a 1 or 2 week gym routine. So get a pedometer. So many phones already have this built in. Just move your body. I have a walking desk at my office that I use every day. I walk 20,000 steps a day.
I always tell people motion is lotion.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we are also seeing that these AI-driven nutrition apps like MyFitnessPal, the CGM continuous glucose meters, and Aura Ring has become like the norm on anybody that I meet in Century City area or like Beverly Hills area. Everybody has an Aura Ring and continuous glucose meter. Oh, you got it too. So what is your thought process on them, and what would be one thing you think that everybody should actually have?
Yeah, I love the wearables, and I'll tell you why. We've never had this amount of data that is continuous that comes directly to us. If you think about it, the only data we ever got from our health for 50 plus years has been the weight on the scale, which is just one number that is very irrelevant because it doesn't tell you your body fat. And secondly is we would go to the doctor once a year. They would measure our blood pressure, check some blood tests, not even tell us what it means. And that's it. That's the only data we got, right? And so we were basically been flying our airplane blind for decades. Now, finally, we have all this incredible data. Wearables are fantastic. I actually don't care what wearable you have. You can buy a Fitbit now for $40 on Amazon, okay? It tells you how many steps you have per day. It tells you how you're sleeping. It tells you your recovery with HRV. It's tracking the trends and understanding what's affecting these numbers is massive because no one's going to care about your health as much as you do. So if you start looking at your data on your phone every day, twice a day, once a week, you're going to learn a little bit, much more than you're going to learn than doing a once a year doctor's visit, right? And so I'm a big believer in data. Continuous glucose monitor is revolutionary. We were talking a little bit about metabolic health. Having your blood glucose go to your phone every 5 minutes. I'm wearing mine right now. It's a game changer. And this data is going to get more and more abundant as we see the continuous glucose monitor not just tell us glucose, but also tell us how much stress we have, what our ketone bodies are, what our cortisol levels are, what our insulin level is. We're going to get all this data. And then what's going to happen to all that data is going to go to your phone, and your phone will have AI and tell you more information about what to do, what not to do in your day-to-day routines so you can really keep yourself healthy.
Do you have any app that is connected to all this data, or are you planning to get one?
Yeah. So we're developing our Next Health app right now that is going to connect all your data and give you day-by-day information about what to consider for that day.
Like I rather would have a Aura Ring or a CGM attached to something central.
Right.
So that would be ideal in case you have not started.
That's
Please
exactly
start
what
that.
we're doing. Yeah, we're going to launch this in September, which is our data aggregation AI platform. Yes.
Oh, love that. And as a board certified surgeon, you've witnessed disease progression firsthand. What's one common early warning sign that people should not ignore at all? And what can they proactively do right away for that?
Yeah, I would think that it depends on what disease you're talking about, okay? But one thing that people don't really think about is their blood pressure. Now, there's no warning sign for blood pressure. That's why we call it in medicine a silent killer, right? Because you don't even know it's happening until you die from it. So every single person, I don't care, where you are, what your family history is, how healthy you think you are, go get a blood pressure cuff and measure your blood pressure once every 3 or 4 months and bring it home, do it at home, watch a YouTube video on how to do it correctly. The reason doing it at the doctor is not very beneficial is because it's always a measurement that's thrown away because, right? It is usually it's the lowest
White coat syndrome is
doing the blood pressure, right? So yeah, get a blood pressure cuff at home, measure yours, measure your family's, even your kids. If they're 21 years or older, measure your kids' blood pressure. It starts so early now, we're seeing. And once you understand if your blood pressure needs to be as close to 120/70 all the time as possible, the minute it goes to 130/80 or above, you have an increased risk of mortality. You have to start with this very early. It affects every other system in your body. It affects your brain health. High blood pressure causes Alzheimer's, causes heart attacks, causes sexual health problems.
So I just had a podcast like few weeks ago, and the person was telling that it's an unrelated thing, but he had a very tough time getting his blood pressure under control. He went to the HOD of UCLA cardiology. He went to USC, went to UCI. He tried every trick, he said, but it would never decrease from 140/90. He was on telmisartan and amlodipine, the two famous drugs. He tried the diuretic. It really didn't work for him. So for people like him, what would you recommend? Because there's a lot of comments in my podcast about, oh, they have this problem. So what do you recommend for them?
Three things. What you're talking about is refractory hypertension, right? So, you're on multiple medications, you can't get it under control. There's three things this person should think about. Number one is rule out any causes of primary hypertension. So hypertension due to maybe a tumor in the adrenal glands, right? The renin-angiotensin system or kidneys. There's a lot of hormonal reasons you can have high blood pressure. So just make sure you see an endocrinologist, not just a cardiologist, if you're having problems getting your blood pressure under control. Number two, most high blood pressure stems not from having too much stress or too much salt. It really comes from metabolic disease. So understanding what is your hemoglobin A1C, what is your fasting insulin level? Do you need a continuous glucose monitor? Once you get your visceral fat under control, once you get your metabolic health under control, many times your blood pressure will go down. Third is a new device that we're bringing into Nextel, and it is called the EECP. And what this device does is extracorporeal counterpulsation therapy. This device, every heartbeat, it squeezes your legs and your pelvis, and it provides pressure that your heart needs to beat up against. And what that does is increases a substance called nitric oxide in your blood vessels. Nitric oxide helps your blood vessels to relax. Most of us have very low nitric oxide levels. And so with EECP is a therapy that you just sit in this kind of like a massage table with these big balloons attached to your legs and your pelvis, and you're attached to an EKG machine. Does this every heartbeat, and after an hour, you feel incredible. And then you do this for a few weeks, and then your blood pressure starts going down.
I heard about this 10, 12 years ago when I was talking to this guy who came up with 5-hour energy drink.
Yeah.
He wanted to bring this product to US, and there was another, I also saw it in a few trade shows in China quite a bit. Like a lot of people in China are now starting to open up clinics with EECP. Tell me about this hyperbaric oxygen chamber, because that is becoming very popular too. What is that, and how can people benefit from it, or who can most benefit from it?
Yeah. So I trained at the Mayo Clinic where we were using hyperbaric chambers on people that had had a stroke, that had had a heart attack, or large wounds that would not heal. And it was incredible how much it affected their brain health, their cardiac health, their wounds. They would just heal so much faster. So hyperbaric oxygen, we're bringing it outside of the hospital so people can use it for regular health. Hyperbaric oxygen works in two ways. Number one, it increases the amount of oxygen delivered to your tissues. Every tissue needs oxygen to create energy. The more energy your tissues have, the better they can function. Second way it works is by that oxygen delivery, you have an increased amount of what's called oxidative stress. Small doses of oxidative stress allow your cells to reset and regenerate. So when cells undergo oxidative stress, the old dead ones clear, old dead mitochondria clear, and your stem cells start becoming more active, and you make new cells and you make new. So those are the two major mechanisms of hyperbaric oxygen. The experience is you go into a chamber is very comfortable. You spend 45 minutes there. There's different protocols, but we like to use it once a week for our patients that are looking for better longevity. And this can be incredibly beneficial for long-term health.
Beautiful. So a few other things before we wrap up. The important thing is when I went to your clinic, I got an IV done, and that IV menu had several things. So I chose for myself the stress IV, which probably had a lot of magnesium in it. How do people decipher which one they need? Do these really work in an IV format, and why IV is important?
Yeah. So, from working in the hospital too, that, we give IVs to everybody, right?
Right.
And everyone comes in, you get an IV pretty much. Memory that I always have is when people would come in, homeless people, people with liver failure, or people that even were bulimic. I remember the first thing that we would do was give them what's called a banana bag. This is an IV with vitamins in it that make it look yellow. And you give this to people, and they miraculously got better within hours, right?
Yep. The yellow color.
Exactly. So giving nutrients by IV works. Why do we only use it when you're about to die, right? We know most of us are walking around nutrient deficient. Our diets are deficient in nutrients because of ultra processed foods, have very little nutrients in it. Even our produce is nutrient deficient because we've over farmed our soil and we don't have enough nutrients in our soil now. So, there's a lot of problems with the amount of nutrient density that we're getting in our diet. And so IV nutrition is a good way to supplement it. And so we provide IVs in our IV lounge. I don't think everyone needs an IV every week. I don't think so. I think I only use it when I've had a week when maybe I'm traveling and I haven't been able to eat my normal way, or I'm feeling sick or run down, then I use an IV.
Which one do you use for after travels? Because that's probably a lot of the people who listen to me are all entrepreneurs traveling all the time. So which one is that?
I use an immune IV.
Immune IV.
Yeah, immune IV. This has specific nutrients to help supercharge your immune system and help support your immune system in fighting infections. And also, your immune system has a lot of functions besides just fighting infections, right? And so your immune system after travel is very weakened. And so this will help your immune system get back to a strong state.
Beautiful. And I also see that there's a lot of this talk about telometrics meters, and then NAD is, I hear David Sinclair talk about NAD all the time. What do you think is one thing that everybody should study about?
Yeah.
Or really be curious about?
So all the things you're talking about there, by the way, some of those people you mentioned are my patients and they come to Nextel to do all of this.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So some of the things you talked about there, this is all kind of more the advanced longevity services that we provide. Okay. And like I said, once you have your basics in place, then you can start dabbling in some of this biohacking advanced longevity science. And I actually think, what happens to a lot of our patients, and this happened to me, is I got healthy and I kept wondering, now what? What else can I do? I feel amazing. How can I feel even better, right? And so there's a few things that can help you really feel even better than amazing. One is IVNR, nicotinamide riboside. IVNR is converted to NAD inside of the cells, and it gives your cells the precursors that they need to make energy. So the NAD is a molecule that goes into your mitochondria. Mitochondria spits it out as ATP. That's the currency of energy inside the cell. So we do IV nicotinamide riboside. I also take True Niagen, which is a supplement that makes NAD. And this has given me much, much more energy than most people my age. And I'm a big fan of IVNR, Niagen. Secondly, you mentioned telomere testing. Telomere test is a test of biological age. It's a test that I did to tell you, I was old when yeah, exactly. There's other biological age tests that are even more accurate. One is called a methylation test by True Age Testing. We perform those tests on our patients once a year, just as a scorecard to see how are all of your habits adding up to a change in your biological age. Your chronological age is always going to get a year older every year, no matter what. But what if you could track your biological age and make that younger every year? That's a good goal to have, right? So you mentioned what Brian Johnson did with us, and he posted a video on his YouTube. It's called plasma exchange. Plasma exchange is where you hook yourself up to a machine, and what we do is we remove the blood from one arm, we separate your plasma from your red blood cells, we give you back your red blood cells, and we throw away your plasma. Why do we throw away our plasma? Because that's where all the junk lives. That's where all the toxins live. That's where all the inflammatory mediators live, all the malformed proteins that lead to problems in your health. All of that lives in your plasma. It's kind of like an oil change for your body, and it gives your biology a time to catch up with all of these processes so that it doesn't need to continually eliminate them through your plasma.
I think he also took his son's blood and he gave his blood to his dad or something like that. I don't remember the whole thing now.
Yeah. He did that and it didn't work. And I told him, that's not going to work because there's nothing in the young blood that makes you younger. It's removing your old blood that makes you younger.
Good point. And lastly, before we end, is what do you think about sleep and mental health? Mental health is becoming a huge problem, especially with so much social media, so much news that you can get from everywhere. And do you also incorporate meditation and Ayurveda in your life, or do you in your practice in Next Health
Yeah, absolutely.
or
So,
plan to?
well, I mean, I would say Ayurveda is the base of everything we do because my dad was a physician that practiced Ayurveda. I grew up with Ayurveda. I
Love it.
learned Ayurveda from Deepak Chopra and his institute in San Diego. And so it's always at the base of everything that we do and my thoughts around health, wellness, and longevity. We don't, just because, we don't talk about it a lot, there's no reason to throw away thousands of years of practice of ancient rituals because we know it works. It's worked for thousands of years. So I'm a huge believer, and I think that we need to incorporate more of these practices like meditation, breath work, adaptogens, just recovery, eating for our biology. All of these things are very important topics that we need to bring back to the forefront of people's mindset as they're getting their basics in order, right? And so, yeah, to answer your question, yes, and I'm a huge supporter of Ayurveda.
Beautiful. I know that in China and like Asian countries, ginseng was a popular adaptogen.
Yeah.
In India, growing up, ashwagandha was a big adaptogen. And in Scandinavia and Russia, I went to school there and I saw that Rio della Rosea is a big adaptogen. So there's been adaptogens all over the world, their own format that have been available. Do you also take any adaptogen
I
at
take
this
all three
point?
of the ones you mentioned.
Wow.
Yeah, I take all
Okay.
three. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer in adaptogens. I mean, it can really accelerate your health. And, we call them adaptogens because we really don't know, number one, how they do what they do. And number two, what are all the different mechanisms that they're really affecting? And that's why we call them adaptogens because they help us adapt to life, right?
So
Yeah.
when I studied Ayurveda, what adaptogen, according to Rasayana or adaptogen, is basically ashwagandha. What it does is it makes your body in a neutral state
Right.
so that your vata, pitta, kapha, the three doshas that define you, are as close to equal as possible. So that is why they call it a rasayana or adaptogen
Right.
in Ayurveda. But I'm very intrigued with these adaptogens and how well the Western society is adapting them.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us anything about your business that we don't know or the audience doesn't know, or anything that could help them connect to you directly.
Sure. Look, I mean, I'm all about educating the public, and whether you come to our business or you do this yourself in DIY fashion, I want to empower you to be at your optimal health. My website is next-health.com. Then you can find one of our clinics. If we're close to you, we'd love to help you. Lastly, I give all of this information on my Instagram at Darshan Shah, MD. And please follow me. I'd love to communicate with you if Instagram is your method of getting education. Otherwise, if you like listening to podcasts, I have a podcast called Extend. And this is a very well-known podcast as Top 10 in Medicine. And I have incredible guests, and I also do solo-sodes there to help people understand their health.
Love it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my team ensure that all these links are put in the link to this podcast so that people can actually click and go follow you. So please follow, guys, Dr. Shah, Dr. Darshan Shah, who's changing the world one step at a time. So thank you so much, Dr. Shah.